The Arena of Dread. The air in the Grakthar Grand War Arena was electric, vibrating with the deep, rhythmic chant of tens of thousands of alien throats. The sound wasn't music. It was more like the roar of an oncoming storm, a guttural promise of blood. Corporal David Kane stood in the center of the arena's vast floor, alone, lit by a column of harsh white light from the ceiling above. His wrists were bound by magnetic cuffs, but his head was unbowed. Around him, the circular coliseum stretched up and up, tier upon tier of towering alien spectators, each one hungry for violence. The Grakthar Dominion loved war. They built monuments to battles, sang songs of slaughter, and turned killing into a form of entertainment. This arena was their cathedral, and Kane was their sacrifice. At the far end of the arena, a massive gate began to rise with a deep, grinding rumble. Behind it stood General Vorga Thuin, his armor a brutal mosaic of black metal and jagged spikes. His eyes, set deep within a face ridged like volcanic rock, locked onto Kane with the cold appraisal of a butcher weighing his next cut. Vorga raised one clawed hand to silence the crowd. The chanting stopped instantly, replaced by a hush so deep Kane could hear the faint hum of the arena's force fields. People of the Dominion. Vorga's voice boomed, amplified by hidden speakers. Today, we test the mettle of the Terran species. You call them clever, ingenious, but without their machines, they are nothing. Weak, frail, meat in the jaws of the strong. A wave of approval swept the crowd. Kane didn't flinch. Vorga's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. And so, before you all, I will unleash our most perfect creation. A weapon that has slaughtered the finest warriors of 20 systems. A predator without mercy, without hesitation. The ultimate test. He turned his gaze back to Kane, his grin a collection of serrated teeth. Release the beast. The crowd erupted into a frenzy. Drums pounded. A klaxon wailed. And from the shadowed gate behind Vorga came a sound that froze the blood of every alien in the arena. A low, resonant growl, followed by the deep thud of colossal footfalls. Kane tensed, scanning the dark tunnel. Something huge moved within, its silhouette growing larger with every step. Light caught on curved talons the size of swords, a massive chest rippling with muscle, and a head crowned with spines. The beast emerged. It was enormous, easily 3 times Kane's height at the shoulder, its sleek black fur glistening under the lights. Its eyes glowed an unnatural gold, and its mouth was lined with teeth long enough to shear through bone in a single bite. Its tail lashed like a whip, gouging the sand beneath it. The crowd gasped. Some leaned forward in anticipation. Others shrank back instinctively. Kane's heart thudded once, twice. Then he froze, staring at the creature in disbelief. You gotta be kidding me. To the Grakthar, this was a nightmare made flesh. But Kane recognized the shape of those ears, the slope of that muzzle, the pattern of those padded paws. It was a dog. A big dog, sure. Mutated, oversized, and probably pumped full of alien gene mods, but the way it moved, the way its eyes tracked him. Ken had seen it before. Back home, they called them Titan Shepherds, descendants of ancient Earth war dogs, bred for strength, intelligence, and loyalty. Humanity had taken wolves and, over thousands of years, turned them into guardians, partners, and friends. Somewhere along the line, the Grakthar had stolen or captured them, twisted them into weapons, and forgotten their origin. Kane couldn't help the small grin tugging at his lips. That's just a cute puppy, he murmured. The beast lowered its head, lips curling back over teeth, a low growl rumbling in its throat. The crowd was already on its feet, waiting for the charge. Kane took a slow step forward, not away from the beast, but toward it. The crowd's noise wavered, confused. Even Vorga tilted his head slightly. When the beast lunged, Kane didn't run. He crouched, lowering his voice into the same calm, steady tone he'd used with his grandfather's shepherd back on the farm. Hey, buddy, easy now. It's okay. The beast skidded to a halt, looming over him, hot breath steaming in the cool air. It sniffed once, twice, its ears twitching. The growl faded to a curious whine. Kane extended his bound hand slowly, letting it catch his scent. Then, in front of the entire Grakthar Dominion, the beast tail gave a single, tentative wag. The arena fell utterly silent. Man's best friend. The beast's tail wagged again, once, twice, and then the impossible happened. It stepped closer and nudged its massive head against Kane's chest, nearly knocking him over. A low, rumbling sound vibrated through its throat. Not a growl, but a sound Kane knew well. It was purring. The Grakthar crowd, moments ago on the edge of hysteria, was now frozen in disbelief. Tens of thousands of alien eyes watched in stunned silence as the galaxy's most feared predator leaned into the human's touch like an overgrown house pet. General Vorga Thuin's mandibles clacked sharply. "What is this?" he hissed, his voice amplified across the arena. "Beast! Tear him apart." The creature's ears flicked toward the command, but it made no move to attack. Instead, it gave Kane's face a wet, slobbery lick that left the human blinking through drool. Kane chuckled, patting the creature's jaw. "Good boy. I bet you don't get many treats around here, huh?" Vorga's voice hardened. "Obey me, weapon. Kill him." The beast's eyes narrowed. Not at Kane, but at Vorga. It gave a low, warning growl, and Kane caught it instantly. This animal wasn't just refusing, it was choosing sides. Kane leaned in, lowering his voice to a private murmur only the creature could hear. "You know me, don't you? Not me exactly, but my kind. Somewhere in those big, scary teeth of yours is the memory of campfires and warm beds. Let's remind them what that means." The Grakthar had no idea what they were witnessing. They'd bred these beasts for war, shaping them into savage instruments of fear. But their mistake had been thinking fear erased nature. Some instincts ran deeper than any genetic tampering. Instincts born of 10,000 years of partnership between human and canine. The arena's silence broke in a wave of confused shouting. Alien voices rose in protest, calling the fight unfair. Some jeered. Others demanded Vorga explain what was happening. The general raised one clawed hand for silence. "Enough. We will see if this anomaly persists. Release the pit gladiators." Gates around the arena floor slid open, and a dozen Grakthar warriors strode out, each carrying a serrated pike or curved blade. Their armor gleamed, their movements confident, until they saw the beast standing calmly beside Kane. Kane straightened, still keeping one hand on the creature's neck. "All right, Max," he said casually. "Let's make a good first impression." The name was instinctive, short, simple, commanding. The beast's ears twitched, and Kane felt a subtle shift in the creature's stance. The first gladiator charged, pike raised high. Max moved like lightning, intercepting him with a single swipe of his paw. The blow sent the Grakthar sprawling across the sand, weapon clattering from his grip. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Another warrior lunged at Kane's flank, but Max pivoted, massive jaws clamping down on the alien's weapon arm. He didn't bite through, just enough to disarm him before tossing the pike aside like a toy. The fight became a blur of motion, Max darting between attackers, each movement precise, controlled. He knocked weapons from hands, tripped opponents with his tail, and sent warriors sprawling without spilling a single drop of blood. The crowd's confusion deepened. To the Grakthar, battle was slaughter. To see the beast fight without killing, it was alien in itself. From the stands, a younger Grakthar shouted, "It obeys him." Others began murmuring in agreement. Kane smirked, leaning just enough toward the nearest warrior to make eye contact. "You see the difference? You trained him to fear you. I trained him to trust me." That line wasn't for the warrior. It was for Vorga. The general's claws flexed. "This is no training. It is witchcraft." "Nope," Kane replied, patting Max's side as the creature returned to stand protectively at his shoulder. "It's called being friends. Maybe try it sometime." The crowd's murmur was changing now, not just confusion, but curiosity. A chant began to rise from one section of the stands. "Alpha, Alpha, Alpha." Kane's ears caught it, and he grinned. The Grakthar thought in terms of dominance hierarchies. They could see what was happening. In their eyes, Kane had just taken the position of pack leader. Vorga roared for silence, but the chant only grew. Kane leaned down to Max. "All right, buddy. Let's see if we can turn this into something fun." The rest of the gladiators hesitated now, caught between obeying orders and avoiding the jaws of the massive predator watching them. Kane gave Max a subtle hand signal, an old one he remembered from his military K-9 training days. Max moved forward slowly, head low, eyes locked on the warriors. One by one, they backed away, unwilling to engage. The crowd roared, not in anger, but in exhilaration. Something new had happened in their sacred arena, something they hadn't seen before. The victory of control without cruelty. Vorga's voice cut through the noise, dripping with fury. "Enough games, human. You will die, and your pet will be broken like the others." Kane met his gaze without flinching. "You want to break him? You'll have to go through me. And between you and me, General," he glanced at Max, who gave a deep, rumbling growl right on cue. "I wouldn't recommend it." Max sat beside him, tail thumping against the sand, golden eyes locked on Vorga like a promise. The crowd was still chanting, "Alpha! Alpha! Alpha!" The pack instinct. The chants echoed through the arena like a living thing. "Alpha! Alpha! Alpha!" General Vorga Thuin stood at the far end of the arena, his spiked pauldrons rising and falling with each furious breath. The scene before him was impossible. His ultimate weapon, standing at ease beside a human prisoner, the crowd siding with them both. "This ends now," Vorga growled. He gestured sharply to his lieutenants. "Deploy the red blades." From a gate high above, 6 elite gladiators dropped into the arena. Their crimson armor shimmered with energy shielding, and each carried a double-bladed polearm crackling with blue plasma. These were not the hesitant warriors from before. These were killers. Kane kept his hand resting on Max's thick fur. "All right, buddy. No more playing nice unless they give us a reason." But he leaned down slightly. "We're still not killing." "Got it." Max's tail flicked once in understanding. The first red blade charged with blinding speed. Max met him halfway, jaws snapping onto the polearm's haft. The plasma arc spat harmlessly into the sand as Max twisted, yanking the weapon free and tossing it across the arena. The second and third attackers came from opposite sides. Kane ducked low as Max pivoted, body-checking one while whipping his tail into the other's legs. Both went down hard, weapons scattering. The crowd's roar became something different now. Less bloodthirsty, more like awe. Kane straightened, watching the last 3 circle warily. "See, the thing about dogs," he said loudly, projecting his voice so Vorga could hear, "is they're pack animals. And once they've decided who their alpha is, they'll protect them to the end." One of the red blades launched. Kane didn't even have to signal. Max intercepted, slamming the gladiator to the ground and planting a paw the size of a dinner plate on his chest. The warrior froze, recognizing instantly that the beast could crush him in a heartbeat. Max looked back to Kane, waiting. Kane gave a small nod. Max stepped back, letting the gladiator scramble away unharmed. The audience murmured, and Kane could hear it, an idea beginning to take root. The remaining red blades hesitated, then retreated toward the edges of the arena. The match was over. Vorga's mandibles flared in fury. "Cowards! Return and finish the kill." No one moved. Kane smirked. "They're not cowards, General. They just realized something you haven't. Fear only works until something stronger comes along. And trust doesn't break." The chant started again, louder now. "Alpha, Alpha, Alpha." Vorga turned to the crowd, shouting over them. "Silence. This human deceives you. The beast is a weapon, nothing more." But the crowd wasn't listening. The power in the arena had shifted. Kane could feel it in the air, thick, electric, dangerous. He stepped forward, projecting his voice like a soldier addressing his squad. "You call him a weapon. I call him a partner. The difference? A weapon will turn on you the moment it's free. A partner will stand with you, even when it could walk away." Max barked once, a deep, resonant sound that rolled across the stands. The crowd answered with a cheer. Kane lowered his tone, speaking only to Max now. "We're not done. He's not going to let this stand. Right on cue, Vorga raised his arm and barked an order. The heavy gate behind him rumbled open. From within, a second beast emerged. This one even larger, its fur a silver gray, its eyes glowing crimson from whatever genetic tinkering the Grakthar had done. The crowd gasped. "Meet your replacement, human," Vorga said coldly. "Let's see if your tricks were twice." The silver beast stepped onto the sand, muscles rippling beneath its coat. It sniffed the air, head turning toward Kane and Max. Its ears twitched. Kane's eyes narrowed. "Max, stay." The two massive creatures locked eyes. For a moment, the tension was so sharp it could have cut glass. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, the silver beast lowered its head, not toward Vorga, but toward Kane. The crowd exploded. Vorga's composure cracked. "No! Attack!" The silver beast ignored him, padding forward until it stood beside Max. The two touched, noses briefly. Then both turned to face the general. Kane let the silence stretch, the image sinking into the minds of every alien watching. Two of the Dominion's deadliest creatures standing shoulder to shoulder with a human. "Looks like the pack's getting bigger," Kane said, grinning. The chant shifted now, louder, unified, shaking the arena. "Alpha, Alpha, Alpha." Vorga's fury boiled over. Enough. Kill the human and destroy the beasts. But Kane could see it. The hesitation in the guards, the unease rippling through the ranks. The crowd was no longer on Vorga's side, and in Grakthar culture, the favor of the people was as dangerous as any blade. Kane stepped forward, Max and the silver beast flanking him. "You still don't get it, do you, General? You thought you could control them with fear. You thought strength was about who could kill the fastest. But strength is knowing you don't have to." Vorga's claws flexed. "You will not leave this arena alive." Kane just smiled. "Then I guess we'd better make a run for it." Max's ears perked at the tone. The silver beast mirrored him, and as the crowd roared its approval, Kane gave a single command. "Move." The three of them surged toward the eastern gate, scattering guards like dry leaves. The people's chant followed them, growing louder with each stride. "Alpha, Alpha, Alpha," a human's best weapon. The eastern gate wasn't built for retreat. It was an entry point for arena beasts. The heavy blast doors had barely started to close when Max barreled through, his massive frame denting the metal. The silver beast followed with a thundering leap, and Kane slipped between them before the doors slammed shut. Behind them, chaos erupted. The chants of "Alpha, Alpha" were deafening, drowning out General Vorga's orders. Guards scrambled to form a blockade in the corridor, but the sight of two towering beasts at Kane's side turned their advance into a retreat. They moved quickly, paws pounding on steel floors, claws sparking as they dug for traction. Kane's military instincts mapped the complex in seconds. This was no random warren. The arena was built like a fortress, but every fortress had weak points. "Max, left," Kane ordered, pointing toward Junction. The dog obeyed instantly, leading them into a wide hall lined with cages. Kane stopped short. Dozens of beasts were here, black, gray, brown, each one chained, their eyes glowing with the same engineered ferocity he'd seen in Max on first sight. They growled at the intrusion, but it wasn't the mindless rage the Grakthar believed in. It was hunger, hunger for freedom. Kane's mind raced. If the Grakthar ever set these on him, it would be a bloodbath. But if... He looked to Max, then the silver beast. "All right, boys, let's make this a family reunion." Max trotted forward, sniffing the nearest cage. A low, rumbling bark rolled from his chest. One by one, the chained beasts stopped growling and began watching Kane. He moved to the first lock, smashing it open with a discarded guard's rifle. The beast inside stepped out slowly, then immediately nuzzled Max in recognition. "Pack instinct," Kane muttered. "Let's use it." Within minutes, the cages were empty. A dozen beasts now filled the corridor, their sheer presence making the floor vibrate. And every single one was looking to Kane. The alarm klaxons wailed, echoing through the walls. Vorga's voice came over the arena-wide speakers, furious and sharp. "You think you can steal from me? Human, you will drown in your own blood. Kane looked up at the nearest speaker. Not today, General. The pack surged forward, tearing through the final gates like they were paper. Guards tried to stand their ground. Pikes, rifles, even plasma nets. But the beasts worked together with uncanny precision. One would charge to scatter the line. Another would leap to knock weapons free. And Max stayed glued to Kane's side, intercepting every threat before it could touch him. By the time they reached the central courtyard, word had spread. The crowd from the arena had spilled into the streets, still chanting Alpha. The sight of the human leading a pack of Dominion war beasts was something none of them would forget. Vorga was waiting. He stood at the top of the courtyard steps, flanked by his personal guard. His armor had shifted into full battle mode, plates locking into place, a power spear crackling in his claws. His eyes burned with hatred. Into the line, human, he snarled. Kane stepped forward, Max and the silver beast flanking him like living tanks. You've already lost, Vorga. Look around. The crowd wasn't cheering for the general. They were silent now, watching, judging. You've ruled with fear, Kane continued, his voice carrying. And now your people see another way. You call it weakness. I call it strength. Vorga bared his teeth. Words won't save you. Didn't think they would, Kane said, rolling his shoulders. Good thing I got backup. Vorga lunged, his spear slicing the air where Kane had stood a heartbeat before. Kane dove aside, and Max met the general head-on, clamping his jaws onto the weapon shaft. The silver beast swept in from the other side, forcing Vorga to retreat a step. The crowd gasped. They had never seen the general yield ground. Kane advanced, seizing the moment. You can't beat me, Vorga. Not without killing them. And if you kill them, he glanced meaningfully at the crowd. You'll lose everything. Vorga's gaze flickered, not to Kane, but to the spectators. The hesitation was all Kane needed. He stepped forward, knocking the spear from Vorga's grip with a well-timed kick. Max growled, the silver beast stepping between Kane and the weaponless general. Kane's voice dropped low enough for only Vorga to hear. Here's the thing about humans. You think we're dangerous because of our weapons. But the truth is our greatest weapon, he scratched Max's neck, is loyalty. The crowd erupted, their chant returning with earth-shaking force. Alpha! Alpha! Vorga stood frozen, humiliated. He couldn't strike without turning the people against him completely. Kane straightened. Here's my terms. We leave, the beasts leave, and you never use them again. Or, he gestured at the surrounding pack. We see how long you last in the pit with me. The weight of the crowd's eyes pressed down. Vorga's mandibles clicked once, twice, before he spat the word like poison. Go. The beasts parted for Kane, forming an honor guard as he walked through the courtyard gates. Max stayed close, tail wagging. The chant followed them through the streets, echoing until the arena was far behind. Epilogue. Weeks later, in human space, Kane leaned against a cargo crate in the docking bay of a Terran cruiser. Max lay at his feet, the silver beast stretched out beside him. The rest of the rescued pack was being carefully integrated into human habitats, each one adapting with remarkable ease. News feeds across the galaxy replayed the footage from the arena. The moment a human stood unafraid before the Dominion's deadliest weapon, and the day loyalty defeated fear. Kane scratched Max's ears, smiling faintly. Guess we show them, huh, buddy? Max gave a soft chuff of agreement. Sometimes, Kane thought, the most dangerous thing in the galaxy wasn't a gun, or a ship, or even a superweapon. Sometimes, it was just a human and his dog.